right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for logging on this morning. We're going to go ahead and get started. That way we can start on time or somewhat on time and definitely end on time this morning, if not a little bit early. This is the second of 5 virtual sessions that we're going to be hosting for Talent EVV. This one's going to be around population growth and the great things that we're doing across our region to think about how we grow the Evansville region. So really excited to be with you this morning and looking forward to sharing some great information and getting some feedback from you all. So we've got some speakers today with us. I want to introduce everyone. I'll just do a brief introduction and let you all kind of introduce yourself and share who you are. I've got Audrey Burkett here, Chief Operations Officer at EREP. I've got Dr. Shelby, Vice President of Talent and Community at University of Evansville. He is also the Chief Inclusion and Equity Officer. I've got Abby Elpers, Director of Marketing at EREP, and then Ashley Reister, Communication Specialist at EREP. And then, of course, let you all introduce yourself as well. So,
all right. Well, thanks, Tyler. It's great to be here, Audrey Burkett, focusing on quality of place today, and really looking forward to the discussion.
Wonderful. Thank you. Dr. Shelby, you want to introduce yourself?
Good morning, everyone. Just looking forward to the conversation, and I think this is a topic that's near and dear to all of us. So looking forward to it.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Shelby.
Good morning, I'm Abby Elpers. We're excited to talk to you about what we're doing as far as digital marketing goes to attract talent into our region.
Good morning, I'm Ashley. Ditto.
Wonderful. Hey, thank you all for being here. Appreciate you all engaging and being a part of the discussion. Again, we're going to record this discussion this morning. We'll be posting it on our website following the meeting today. So feel free to log back on, share this with folks afterwards, follow up with us, ask questions. Again, we'll have some time for Q&A throughout our discussion today. We are going to save about 10 minutes at the very end to follow up on questions. So feel free to come off of mute, interrupt us, ask some questions. If you don't feel comfortable coming off of mute, drop some questions in the chat. We want to circle back to those. We want to make sure that we're engaging with you. We're having a conversation and really understanding, how are you all thinking about population growth in the region as it relates to the information that we're sharing and the information that you're going to be seeing today. So again, thank you all for logging on and excited to get started. So here first, we are going to cover some data to begin with, right? So I think it's always important to really frame the conversation around objective data to really make sure that we're being guided by data and through data. But of course, population growth is really the positive outcome of the other 4 Talent EVV focus areas. So if this is the first time you're hearing about Talent EVV, there are really 5 total focus areas. So population growth, living well, thriving workforce, upward mobility, and educational attainment. Population growth is the outcome of the 4 below. So folks want to locate where there's access and high quality healthcare. A growing workforce contributes to a thriving economy and a diverse talent pool. When individuals and couples are financially secure, they tend to grow their families. And finally, high performing education systems attract the best and the brightest. So again, these 4 other focus areas, really the positive outcome of those are greater population growth for our region. So I think we feel like we've got the right focus areas that are going to transform our region, and just really looking forward to diving in on some additional data around our population. So I want to start out with a couple of objectives. When we think about population growth, we've got some really ambitious goals, right? We want to grow our region by 10,000 residents. So whenever I say our region, that's the 5-county region of the Evansville region. So that's Vanderburgh County, Warwick County, Posey County, Gibson County, and Henderson County. So that's our MSA plus Gibson. It's really important that this is really a regional perspective and that we are including those folks in the surrounding counties outside of Vanderburgh. This isn't just about downtown Evansville. This is really about transforming our region as a whole and thinking about all of the residents and all of the communities that make up our region. So within those 10,000 residents, we really have an additional goal of 5,500 that we want to be early stage career. So those are folks 20 to 40. Why have we identified that group? Well, those are going to be folks that are growing families, that are in their prime working age, that are going to really have a long runway in our community to really make impact, be employed, enjoy the quality of life amenities that we're going to talk about later, kind of all the great aspects of our region. Of course, we're not going to be excluding folks. We want any and all, and we want to make our region an attractive and appealing place for all folks, but we really are focusing on that 20 to 40-year-old demographic. So I think that that's really important to keep in mind here. So before we jump into the strategies that are really helping us, or the way that we're thinking about potentially growing our population, I think it's important to share with you all kind of the makeup of what we're seeing, right? So we want to show some really high level aggregated data to talk about who's in our region and what are we seeing, right? So here's our first slide. It's population indicators. What you're seeing here is on the orange line is the Evansville region. So if you look at other communities that are peer communities to us, aspirational communities to us, the Evansville region has been in a slight decline since 2018. So it's no secret, if you're not growing, you're dying. This is an indicator that we want to look at on a pretty regular basis to understand, is our region healthy as it relates to population growth? So I think that's a really good way to kick off the conversation, and the why behind strategic priorities and actions that will help really reverse that declining trend that we're seeing over the past couple of years. The second piece, again, our second objective is growing that young adult population by 5,500. So again, similar to our total population, we've been in a slight decline since 2018. You can see in 2020 and 2021, that's really flattened out. That's positive, right? You know, it's good that we know that we are flattening out, but again, being flat is not growing, and it's important that we're prioritizing strategies that help us think about how to retain and attract young adults. So you'll see in a couple slides, one of the key ways that our region and the partners around our region are thinking about how we retain these folks and how we make this community attractive for young people. Next is minority population. So as Talent EVV as a project has grown, evolved, transformed, what we continue to hear is an emphasis and a really intentional focus on DE&I. So it's no secret to you all. There's plenty of studies out there that we'd be happy to share. As a country, we are graying and we are browning. So our demographic as a country is getting older, and it's also getting more racially diverse. So if you look at the graph on the right, we've got a handful of peer and aspirational communities that are significantly outpacing us as it relates to their growing minority population. So when we think about opportunities to grow our region, to become more inclusive, it's important that we really are engaging in strategies and conversations that are equitable, that are inclusive, and that are asking the hard questions. What can we do to be a more diverse community, and how do we attract that demographic and really create those quality of life amenities that match those folks that may be interested in moving here? So I think that's a really important piece. That's something that continues to be an emphasis and will continue to be an emphasis moving forward as well. Knowing that DE&I has become such a focal point to population growth and how we think about growing the Evansville region, wanted to give you just some breakdown numbers here of what we're actually seeing whenever you start to deaggregate some of those numbers as it relates to our workforce and representation. So the data on the left is really representing racially diverse individuals. So at the very bottom, you can see that the 10.7% of the regional workforce is non-white. 7.1% of those folks are in management positions. That's compared to the national average of 25.4% and 20%. What that really tells us is we're not racially diverse as a community. I think that comes to no surprise to anyone on this call. But secondly, if you look at the total makeup of the demographic of the Evansville region, A little bit less than 12%, actually 11.9% of our total population identifies as racially diverse or a minority. So what that really tells us is we're not very diverse, but we are slightly underperforming as it relates to the total representation of our population. So that's an area we're going to continue to watch. That's a number we want to continue to see grow, especially that 7.1%, because we know as it relates to DE&I, it's important that equity and opportunity is really at the focal point of that conversation. And then on the right, this is a really positive number, right? If you look at the national average of 47.7% and 49%, women are well represented in this community. In fact, more of our regional workforce is represented by women, and more of our management positions are actually filled and represented by women. So I think as we think about DE&I, of course, diversity comes in all kinds. And I think what we like to think is on the right, we are making some really great progress and actually being trendsetters as it relates to the national average. Of course, on the left, as it relates to folks that are racially diverse, we need to be better. And that's something that we're looking at and being really intentional about. So again, wanted to be really transparent and show you all this data. It's something that we look at it on a regular basis, and this really helps us shape our strategies and the way that we think about opportunity moving forward. So we really have three kind of big strategies that we want to cover today. First is retaining our talent. The second is enhancing quality of life or quality of place. And then the last piece is really how are we telling our story as an Evansville region? So this piece right here is really identifying the opportunity that we have to retain and make sure that our young folks feel like they have opportunity in this community. So if you look at that big number, that we've got about 36,000 folks between our 2- and 4-year institutions that we have as a captive audience year over end, right? So those are 36,000 individuals that we want to make sure have an affinity to the Evansville region, have employment opportunities, and feel like there's opportunity in the right quality of place and quality of life amenities for them to enjoy post-graduation. So I'm actually going to turn it over to Dr. Shelby. He's been deeply involved with this work from a couple different perspectives. He's going to share a little bit about his role at U of E, and then also talk a little bit about his role as it relates to Talent EVV. And I think it'll be a nice tie around what we've shared around DE&I and what we've shared around retaining our talent. So Dr. Shelby, you want to say a few words?
Yeah, thanks, Tyler. So of course, I think this is a really key piece, seeing how my career has been in higher education. So when I came to UE in 2015, I came here as a professor teaching sociology. I came from the University of Louisville and stayed with the faculty here until 2019, and then became the Chief Diversity Officer, replacing Lenisa Williams, if you remember her. The real important work here is, like most institutions of higher education across the country and certainly in our region, the draw or the work that needs to go into making sure that our campus communities are also reflective of the diversity that we're hoping to see within our city, within our region. And so most recently, I moved from being the Chief Diversity Officer to the Vice President of Talent and Community and the Chief Inclusion and Equity Officer. So while it is a super long title, what it is simply is I am the Vice President of People. We have figured out, like a lot of other organizations, not just institutions of higher education, that we have to focus on developing people, let me back up for a minute, attracting people, developing them, and retaining them. And so that short kind of pipeline is what we've been focused on here at the University of Evansville. And I know that many of the institutions that are also listed here, actually all of them, because I know the folks who are there, are all working on similar goals in order to have a more diverse and inclusive campus community. And the reason why that's critical is that, just as Tyler was saying, we want those individuals who then graduate from our institutions to actually stay in the region. And if we're unable to really generate or create inclusive campus communities, it's going to potentially hinder us or create some barriers for us to then make the case for why staying in the region is so important. So that's been primarily what I've been focused on here, and that is what has drawn me into doing work with Talent EVV, with the Diversity Advisory Council, and where several of us have been getting together to work through some of these very questions, and try to provide some tangible answers to get to some real concrete ways of being able to move forward. So I'll stop there, Tyler, and if there are questions now or along the way, I'm willing to answer.
Wonderful. Hey, thank you, Dr. Shelby. I think that was a great summary and a great recap of kind of why diversity and a focus on diversity is so crucial. And you know, I think about the universities and the perspective that you shared about, you know, students having representation, not only for the student population, but also teachers and faculty. And I think, you know, I look at our institutions as a microcosm of what we want to do across the entire region, right? You all want to facilitate a diverse ecosystem on campus. We really want to help ensure that we have that diverse ecosystem as a region as well, right? So it's that really that spills over into employment, our companies, the nonprofits that we're engaging in, the community activities that we go and enjoy. So I think that's something that we want to be able to mirror, similar to what you all are really focusing on as institutions, and just appreciate your insight there. I think it's extremely valuable. So we've got a question in the chat. Looks like it's from Nate. Actually, I think Dr. Shelby, you may keep his position to answer this question, at least from the U of E perspective, a little bit better than myself. So I don't know if you want to shed some light on students and net importing versus net folks that might be leaving.
Well, this is a really great question. Unfortunately, I don't know the answer to that. And I do think it's an important question to get an answer to. So Tyler, I'll keep track of this one and double back with you to see if we can get an answer to these questions. I know a little bit about at least how the University of Evansville is doing, but that 36,000 student piece, I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, and Nate, I think, you know, would be happy to follow up with you on that question. We've got great relationships with these folks at our post-secondary institutions. I know likely all of them are tracking a version of that question that you're asking. So I think we'd be happy to follow up and see if we can't dig into that a little bit more, because I think you're exactly right. That's a captive audience, and we want to understand where are those folks going. And are they coming from outside of our region to begin with? So great question. Anything that you might add to that, Nate?
You know, Tyler, can I add just a point here while Nate might be typing there? The reason I'm a little bit hesitant to try to answer that question is that I know what's happening with the University of Evansville, and I don't want to assume that is what's happening with our other schools. But the trends have been pretty consistent for us. I mean, we've been growing in our racial and ethnic diversity amongst our student population, so that's for sure. The challenge for most of our schools is going to be retention. So it's not enough to just recruit, we have to be able to retain. And this sounds very similar to how we talk about our workforce, right? So the pieces that we're finding that's really important on this front is that we can sell our institutions of higher education really well, because we know that they're going to get a high quality education. But we have to attend to the social side and the socio mental health, the cultural piece. We've got to attend to that on our college campuses. And that's important because our students, most of our students are coming from the state of Indiana. So that's probably very common. We've been declining when it comes to our more local, you know, the city of Evansville proper and then within the region. So we've been on the slight decline there. but that's also indicative of something larger that's happening, what we call the demographic cliff. And so you spoke about this, I'm just putting a name to it, that we know that we have fewer college going students because that cohort of students, that it's actually smaller because we know how many young people were born in the years that are now entering college. And that's going to persist for some time. And in addition to that, that group is also more racially and ethnically diverse. So they're more Black and brown than previous cohorts, previous generations. So those are going to have implications across our institutions. And so we have to be prepared to not just recruit, but welcome, to retain. And the ultimate goal is to get them to graduation and then staying within our communities to do the good work we know they can.
Wonderful. Hey, thank you, Dr. Shelby. That was really great context. And again, Nate, happy to follow up on that question. I think it's a really important question that we really dig into and have a solid answer for. So we are gonna transition. So this was really the first strategy. It's really retaining our talent, right? We've got 36,000 folks. How do we make sure that there are opportunities for them here in our region after they graduate and while they're in post-secondary? So we're gonna switch gears, gonna hand it over to Audrey. She's gonna walk us through how we might enhance our region through quality of place.
Thanks, Tyler. And for those that are involved in economic development, we hear quality of place, and it's become a pretty generic term. I would say a buzzword that's turned into common language as we talk about community building. And so before we jump into how our region is utilizing quality of place as a growth strategy and what we're doing and the importance, I want to take a step back and actually talk about what is quality of place. If we think about the definition and defining it, quality of place, it's all of those things and features that creates the physical environment, quality of life details that make our location desirable, makes us competitive, it makes us a vibrant place to live. So again, that's still a lot of buzzwords within the definition of quality of place. And so when I was distilling it down and thinking about, and I want you all to think about this as well, when you're traveling to a community, not necessarily on vacation, because we're thinking, oh, beach and mountains, that's really what makes that a great community. But when you're thinking about traveling, especially in the Midwest region, and you go to a community that really catches your eye, what are some of those things that make you feel connected, that give you positive thoughts, that think, wow, growth is happening here. This is a place where I come back and visit, or I see myself. I'd love for you all to drop in the chat. What are some of those features that you think build quality of place? An example recently was traveling to Indianapolis, and if you've been to Bottle Works downtown, that's a new entertainment district that their community has really embraced. They've spent a lot of funding to revitalize that. So I think about quality of places. You know, they've rehabbed this old historic Coca-Cola bottling plant into a hotel that fits within the community. There's now different restaurants, a garage food hall. There's different things and attractions. It's walkable right next to other places in downtown. So I see that as, wow, that they've done a really great job on quality of place there within Bottle Works. But any other thoughts of what is quality of place for those in the chats? We haven't had any pop in yet, so don't be shy. You want to share what you think of when quality of place comes to mind. Well, Tyler will keep monitoring that for us. But again, I think about our Live Well session last time, and we talked a lot about trails. I'm starting to see some pop up. Thank you. I'm thinking about trails and how having walkable, connectable communities is something that is important. Thanks, Janelle. So she's saying family activities, go-karts, having other activities for those to do ages 13 and up. You scroll up, trails, bike lanes, yes, absolutely. Play spaces. Yeah, these are all great things. Arts, thinking Asheville. Thanks, Pat, for that. Sydney's got one. Housing options. Yes, housing is important. And it's housing, you hit it on the exactly how we're thinking about it. You have to have housing for all income levels because it takes a great mix to have a strong community. Destination, sports, fun, diversity, yes, agree there, museums, local restaurants. So thank you. I think you have a pretty good understanding of what it builds for quality of place. And it's not a one size fits all. Every community, as they build their quality of place, it's unique to them. And so as we think about quality of place and who we are as a region, we need to think about what are those assets that we have that can enhance and make this a place where talent wants to be, where talent wants to stay, where those 36,000 of university students can have this to be a place that they call home. So if we move on to the next slide, in economic development, we talk a lot about these three things. We talk about place, quality of place, we talk about the talent we want here, and we talk about growing our economy. And so experts and professionals really agree that these 3 points, it's a cycle of investment. And this investment, where you're prioritizing is how your community is growing and evolving. So for example, we know that quality of place that can drive talent to want to choose to live there. That then creates a more diverse pool for talent to grow our economy and our businesses to choose from. That in turn allows our businesses to reinvest and to continue to invest in quality of place. These are all three very important things. Over the past years, I think our emphasis has really been on how are we growing our economy. But we're starting to see a shift, and we're starting to see we have scarce resources, and we are going to continue to grow in all three of these and put resources in all of these. But where right now do we need to prioritize in order to grow our region? And so our aspiration is to, how do we put more emphasis on place? So this is a shift that we're seeing across the board, and we've seen some really great examples. So I want to touch on a white paper that Welborn Baptist released, a case paper titled "How Quality of Place Impacts Economic Development." This was released in February of 2022, and I think Tyler is going to drop a link into the chat so that if you've not had a chance to take a look at that, it is a really great distilled down reason showing why quality of place matters. And so I want to read a quote from there. So to build a robust and resilient economy, communities need to invest in quality of place. Current and future talent are prioritizing quality of place over employment opportunities. Communities that invest in quality of place see long-term benefits economically and also at the individual community level. So back to why invest in quality of place? Quality of place, it allows individuals to feel more connected and embedded in their local community. Ultimately, those that feel connected to their community means that they want to stay. It means that we have a stronger place, a stronger pool of talent for our employers to retain their existing talent pool, but it also makes us more desirable for folks to want to choose to live here. For those 36,000 that are here now that have an affinity for our region, how can we continue to be attractive and make this where they want to grow, raise their families and have dogs? So I want to give a couple examples of other communities that are prioritizing quality of place and point back to the white paper. But in Minneapolis, they invested over $750 million in economic development to transform an abandoned railroad corridor and allow residents to really have more connection to walking, biking. That is a huge transformational decision that community decided to take on. We also look quite a bit to Austin and what they're doing and their whole Keep Austin Weird culture and how they've prioritized quality of place, and they've seen a significant amount of talent come into that region. Now they're having conversations around how do we make sure that we focus on the economy and we have the jobs there for the talent when they arrive? How can we make sure that this is a community that's affordable? So again, it's a cyclical. Right now, our community is wanting to put a lot of emphasis on place. So would encourage you all to take a look at that white paper. So what are we doing as a region as it relates to quality of place? What are those transformational opportunities that we see within our region? So on our next slide, want to point back to what builds quality of place. And as I think about you all and what you put into the chat and what the white paper says, we see quite a bit of these areas in affecting what builds quality of place. And so we're taking this information and we're thinking about, through a talent EVV lens, where can we, with scarce resources, make the most transformational impact for our community? And so on the next slide, I want to show we've got $100 million of investment happening right now in our region through quality of place. And I know there are many of you that are project partners on this call. I think I saw several that have a direct connection to some of these. You may have heard us talk about the READI initiative. This last December 2021, the state came out with a $500 million program, and our region was awarded $50 million. So how did we use that, utilizing a talent EVV lens to make sure that we were using scarce resources to think about quality of place and really enhance what's happening within our region? So we think of the READI investment as a funding enabler for what we're trying to accomplish with talent EVV and ultimately grow our population. So to give you a couple examples of some transformational things that are happening throughout our region, this is not just downtown Evansville, this is truly a regional effort, especially when you see those top two right there. The Toyota YMCA, the governor was down this past fall. This is located in Princeton, and so they're having a new YMCA, rehabbing an old school and turning that into a really great community asset. We all know the value that the YMCA brings from the young population all the way through and the value that they bring. So we're very excited for the Toyota YMCA in Princeton. We also know that Warwick County has a sports park, and think about the opportunities that sports tourism can bring to our community. That is bringing in youth sports, bringing in professional sports to see our region. So it's another draw. So how can we think that that'll be a great opportunity coming up? Talent, especially as we think about those that are our target demographic, they're dog lovers. It's important to have a dog park for those individuals in our community. It's a simple quality of place thing that we need to make sure that we're putting resources into. Lighting is another way that we have found it can enhance the vibrancy in what you're thinking about as you enter a community. Lighting is a way that can draw your attention. It can show connection. And so we see some opportunity there under lighting some of the underpasses into the downtown core, but then also what are some lighting opportunities that we can also do in downtown Mount Vernon and downtown Princeton and Boonville and Newburgh. Centerpoint Energy Square. This is a block across from us at 5th and Main Street in downtown Evansville. It is currently empty site, a blank canvas surrounded by a construction fence. So we see that as an opportunity to build vibrancy in our downtown core, continuing to invest in green spaces that are walkable and connected to trails. We have trails that are happening in Warwick County. That's the Victoria Woods Trail. We're making investments in SEMO, which is our children's museum, building a new Ohio Township Park in Warwick County, and then building a new park in Mount Vernon in Posey County, the Brittle Bank Park. So you can see this is a mix of green spaces, of active lifestyle, of really how are we enhancing our community in very transformational projects and quality of place. So this is a lot of information. If you want to dig in more to what these projects are, I would encourage you to visit our website and click on the READI tab. We go into more about what the READI funds are investing in. But I think, I want to leave you with these funds are not a one-off initiative that we're using them for. These are tied directly back to Talent EVV and how we see building quality of place can grow our population. So if we look at our next slide, we're also thinking about what are the next big opportunities that our region has? What makes us unique? And we are a riverfront region. We have a riverfront in downtown Evansville. We have a riverfront in Mount Vernon, and we have a riverfront in Newburgh. And so there is an initiative underway right now to do some planning and activation. And we see that as a future opportunity for our region. As we know, the state has prioritized quality of place we want to make sure that we have projects and potentials that will make our region stand out to talent. We know through the good work of Leadership Everyone and what Lynn Miller Pease has done, I think just about every group that she surveys, they point to Riverfront as a priority of where they would love to see investment take place. In some of the focus groups that our team has done with college students, the Riverfront continually comes up. And so we know that this is an asset for us that we have now the opportunity to do some planning and activation around. Also, we know that we want to continue to partner with the state. The state of Indiana has recognized that quality of place is what can make all of our communities different. And so they are allowing the regions to really manage their own destiny at this point, and utilizing the READI funds to how are we building quality of place, quality of life, quality of opportunity within these layers. So these are the READI goals and focus areas. We're in a legislative session right now. It's a budget year. And so the state, as of this point, has $500 million again set aside for READI 2.0. So our region is really thinking through what are those transformational investments that can tie back to where we want to head with Talent EVV. So really excited about the opportunities that we have. I think about where we're headed, and we know that quality of place allows us to tell our story. And I think this is a perfect tie-in to Abby and Ashley and how they're going to talk about how we can utilize quality of place and better tell our story through digital marketing efforts.
Awesome, thank you.
Thanks, Audrey. You summed that up perfectly, that we do have a perfect platform to start telling our story. Excuse me. Our EREP team's been working alongside an agency to execute a digital marketing campaign outside of our region to a target audience. The goal is to attract people who, those individuals back into our region, or the individuals who have never been here and this will be their first time. And so what do we mean when we say a digital marketing campaign? Marketing has always been about connecting with your audience in the right place at the right time. And today, if we want to connect to our audience that is mostly outside of the region, we're going to have to meet them where they are, and that's going to be online. So think about all the times that you have searched for a product or a place online, and then you logged into your social media hours later, and miraculously, that product pops up right in front of you as soon as you open your feed. That's the kind of digital marketing that we're talking about here, and that we're really excited to dive into. So as part of the Evansville Region's population growth strategy, we use the Talent EVV data, some of which that Tyler covered this morning, and market research to identify those individuals, our target audience, that are most likely to move to our region to grow our population. And Ashley can tell you a little bit more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we took our target audience and developed personas around the customers that we've identified as most likely to move here based on market research. So we'll use these personas as a guide for tone of voice, creative content, and ultimately the strategy behind the distribution of the campaign. So these personas that we'll be targeting are, so first up, we have student Sophie. This is a made-up name, so you don't have to be named Sophie to be targeted by us. You also don't have to be a female, so keep your worries to yourselves. You don't have to change your name to be a part of our targeting. This demographic will be 18 to 24-year-old college student targeted via email marketing, TikTok, and Instagram. So we know that they care about making an impact. This generation does. So they also want to find a job after they graduate. So our primary storytelling methods will be to connect them to career opportunities and ways to get involved holistically in the community, and showcasing that Evansville is a launch pad for their future. So the next one is Boomerang Bailey. Again, you don't have to be named Bailey to be targeted by us, but they'll be 28 to 40 years old. They have a prior connection to the Evansville region, and they're looking for community. We'll target them primarily on Facebook and Instagram, and our primary storytelling method is to connect them holistically to family events and community opportunities while tapping into the fun nostalgia of growing up in the Evansville region, and highlighting the cost of living and connecting them to career opportunities. And next is Professional Paul. They are 28 to 50 years old, and they have a prior connection to the Evansville region also. Paul is looking for professional growth and will target them primarily on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. Our primary storytelling method will connect them to career opportunities and highlight the cost of living and connect them to family events and community opportunities while tapping into the fun nostalgia of coming back to the Evansville region. So digital marketing campaign will soft launch later this month on social media, and the full campaign will take off shortly after that.
I think it's important to note also that when Ashley mentions that these individuals have a prior connection to our region, it doesn't necessarily mean that they lived here at one, that they grew up here. They could have just lived here at one point. Maybe they moved here for a job. Maybe they went to school here and then moved away. So those are the individuals we're talking about. Over the next 6 months, over the last 6 months, we've been developing content to support this campaign. To really tell our region's authentic story. And so we've developed a newcomer's guide that is available on EREP's website, as well as the E is for Everyone website. You can share this digitally with anyone. We have contracted with a photographer to take new quality images all across the region and all of our communities. We've hired a freelance writer to create blog posts about life in the Evansville region. And even began recording some e-stories from unique individuals who are living here. And these are video stories that will live on the E is for Everyone website. And why the E is for Everyone website is going to be the home base for this campaign. Why is it the home base? Because it's the most neutral ground for telling our region's story. And we'll continue to develop content and test the engagement of the content that we're pushing out through the campaign along the way. We'll be refining and testing that with our target audience to make sure that the stories we're telling are the stories that our audience wants to hear. And if any of you out there have a story that we should be telling, or you know of someone in the region who has a really unique story, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We'd love to hear about it. What you're seeing on this screen is what you can find on the E is for Everyone website now. This is some of the content that lives on the blog that our freelance writer has been drafting for us that we'll be pushing out through the campaign, just to give people an idea of what it's like to live here, to co-work here, to enjoy food and drinks here, to go thrift shopping here. We're trying to cover a wide variety of topics that anyone can feel connected to and that they can belong here. Again, this is an example of how E is for Everyone is the home base for the campaign, because it's just the most natural and authentic place for us to tell our region story. And so you can go to the site and find a regional mural map, a regional brewery guide, or where to find outdoor recreation all across the region. I'm going to invite Tyler and Audrey and Ashley to chime in on this slide as well, because we've all been a part of some early success in growing our population by really going after those remote workers that are outside of our community. We have had been working with a program called Make My Move. And we are one of many communities featured on the Make My Move website. And we're still actually working to fully build out our communities page. And though it's not fully built, we've received 30+ applications in the first 6 days that it was live. And since then, multiple offers have been made and 2 have accepted our offers, and 1 has moved here and 1 will be moving here next month. So we're really having some early success with this program.
Yeah, and I might add that about a month ago, the Wall Street Journal published an article that talked about best places for remote workers to live. So most attractive communities for a remote worker to live in. Evansville was actually ranked number 3 across the United States. So I think that's a testimony to the great foundational work that our community, the partners across our community have done to build quality of place amenities thus far. Also, that's a shout out to the great work that we've had around broadband, both as the state of Indiana, but specifically the Evansville region. So we really are positioned well to not only attract student Sophie, Boomerang Bailey, and professional Paul, but we are really positioned to attract remote workers, folks that are non-traditional workers in a way that other communities are not. So I think that's a really exciting piece for us. And then of course, anytime you're getting a shout out from the Wall Street Journal, that's a fantastic testament as well.
Absolutely, that's a badge we want to share proudly. And hopefully you all have seen that article. If not, take a look at it. It's a brag point for us, for you and your businesses, to show that this is a great place that remote workers can be. So I also thought, back to Dr. Shelby's comment earlier, how, as they're thinking about the university, how do we make sure that it's a desirable place for those students to want to stay here? What's really unique about this program is on the back end, some of the data and comments that we're hearing from these workers are really validating some of the early thoughts in our digital marketing campaign. In digital marketing, you always have to be willing to shift and things will change. But our starting point shows that we're on the right direction, that these remote workers saw that through content that has been built, that they have a place where they feel like they can belong, they feel like they can make a difference. And so that is resonating with them. So I would encourage you all, you are all in the business of talent attraction and retention, whether you're a nonprofit, whether you're a business, a community advocate, you want people to stay here. So I would encourage you to take a look at the E is for Everyone website, those brewery maps, those mural maps, the content that's been created, the newcomer's guide, and utilize those resources as ways that you can keep talent in your organizations and your industries as well. So those are all resources that we'd encourage you to use. And if you have a story that we should be telling or you think should be told, we have the experts here with Abby and Ashley in the room that they'd love to connect with you and make sure that story is being told.
Yeah, wonderful. And I think, that really summarizes the three strategies that we're thinking about as it relates to positioning our region for growth, right? So we started out with data and we talked about, a slightly declining population. We talked about a really flat young adult trajectory for our region. We talked about some positive growth for our minority population or diverse folks. And I think what's really exciting is the three strategies that we highlighted. We know our best practices as it relates to growing a region, right? We've got folks that are reaffirming that through a remote worker campaign. We've got 36,000 captive audience individuals through our post-secondary institutions. We've got a state that has acknowledged that quality of place is the right way to think about making your region and your communities attractive. So I think we're excited about the opportunity that's in front of us. We hope you're excited as well. And also we want to acknowledge the great work that you all are doing as it relates to quality of place and attracting folks into this region. I saw Jerry from Westleman Woods was sharing about day passes and memberships. You all are just as much an advocate and a stakeholder in population growth as anyone around this call and others around the region. So we want to empower you all as listeners and as the audience to really be the leaders of this work, right? We love telling stories, but we know that you all like to tell stories too, and we want to highlight those. We want to share those as you all are sharing it on your social media. We think the Evansville region is really positioned for growth over the next 10, 15, 20 years. In fact, we have seen some growth over the last 2 years, but just our population is overall graying and getting older faster than we're growing. But again, some great opportunity in front of us. Any questions? We wanted to save some time here at the end. We'd love to field some questions and see if you all have any thoughts around the work that's happening or the work that you're doing. See, we got Bryce says, how can we do a better job of introducing real Evansville to our out-of-town students to keep them here? Man, Bryce, that's a great question. So I know I'll probably let Abby and Ashley answer this. I know from the EREP perspective, we really want to push the E site. We want folks to feel like they have access to the real Evansville, but Abby and Ashley, you have anything that you might add there?
Yeah, I mean, we've spent some time on the university campuses interacting with the students just to understand what do they know about the Evansville region. And honestly, most of them don't get off of US Island or off U of E Island, and they don't know what they're not experiencing and what they're missing. And so we have a real opportunity to try and connect with them and their marketing departments at the universities to figure out how do we loop them into maybe a newsletter that lets them know about events that are happening or new developments that are coming, just things to like keep them excited and engaged in the community. How do we present internship opportunities off campus to them to get them into the community? How do we present those volunteer opportunities? So those are all things that we're looking at right now. If you have any suggestions, I would love to hear them.
I would also add that it's important as we're telling these stories to be representative of the students and the diversity that the students represent. So we're being intentional in representing the community the way that it actually looks as we're telling these stories.
That's right. And yeah, Tara, thank you for adding that. Yeah, advice is definitely important. You all are the stakeholders and the residents of this region. You're what make this region vibrant and awesome. So as you all think about opportunities or see things within your communities or neighborhoods that we should highlight or that we should be learning about, knowing about, please reach out and share that with us. We want to make sure that we have all the best information from the folks that are really engaged here in that love the Evansville region.
I think we have to acknowledge that we do have one of our remote workers that's moving here. Logan, welcome. I'm so excited you're already getting plugged into the community. And I think, you know, this is a testament to why we're excited about this, because we have individuals that are looking to come and make a connection right away. So I think Logan dropped his information in the chat there as a way to continue to connect. So great. Were there some other questions, Tyler, that we could talk through?
Got some from Jerry. Jerry says, I think Make My Move program has real possibilities. And definitely agree. Yeah, more arts and culture. Folks are interested in arts and culture and also environment. You know, I know you're with Westwoman Woods. I think we've got some great things to highlight. Would love to pick your brain on some additional incentives and opportunities we might fold into that. Cyrus, yeah, thank you for your partnership. We love the Evansville Arts Museum. It's another great asset on our riverfront that we want folks to go and enjoy. I was down there not too terribly long ago, and the space is fantastic. It's a beautiful building. It really is, I think, a hidden asset that folks don't spend enough time at. So appreciate your partnership there as well. Sally, great question. I think Abby and Ashley were actually over on campus for Welcome Week. That's an area of opportunity that we need to be really in tuned in. I think, you know, we want to get our young folks here at EREP and then also stakeholders across the region come with us to USI and U of E, Ivy Tech, Vincent's, all of our higher ed institutions. We'd love to be there. We'd love to talk to students. We want to make sure that if they have questions about the Evansville region that we're answering them. And of course, you know, we're happy to try to find them job opportunities as well. I had an individual not too long ago email me about software design, and I plugged them in with a couple different companies around here. So of course, we're not job placement, but we want to make sure that we're keeping our best and brightest and our talent here locally. Great questions, everybody. Dr. Shelby, perhaps partnerships and relationships between the colleges and universities and community and nonprofits. Yeah, internships. Yeah, that's, I think, huge opportunity. Places of worship. I think that's exactly right. Folks are looking for community. And churches and places of faith are great places for folks to build that community and that ecosystem. I think that's a big part of my life, and I think other folks would agree with that.
I think that's a great point, Dr. Shelby, especially on internships and something we haven't spent a lot of time talking about in this group, but as EREP, we do spend a lot of time thinking about internships, and that is really a student's first interaction with our community, and that experience is potentially a make or break if they decide to have their career here. So just to plug that our team, our membership team, and the Young Professionals Alliance, they are hosting a conference this summer for internships, really to help them feel more connected. And how can we get them plugged in our community? How can we get them building relationships with not only one another, but feel connected when they go to a Farm 57 event, or go connected to a basketball game or an event that's happening within the region. So if that's not on your radar and you do hire interns, our EREP can help be a partner for you to help make sure that your intern is plugged into a really great experience culturally when they're here over the summer.
Wonderful. Yeah, thank you for that. We are closing in on time. Want to end early if we can. We'll follow up with questions that you all might have. So I think most of you have my email. If not, we'll send a follow-up with the link to the Zoom recording, with the link to the slide deck and additional information, the links to the Wellborn white paper, and of course to the e-website. Please feel free to follow up with me. I'm happy to have a quick phone call, virtual meeting, grab coffee. Would love to keep talking about why the Evansville region is awesome and how you all are really helping grow the Evansville region. So thanks for everyone hopping on this morning. Again, in March, April, we'll have our third of 5 virtual sessions. We'll be covering thriving workforce with a focus on education. We've got a lot of fantastic institutions. We've got some great K-12 partners across the region. We want to highlight what folks are doing as it relates to educational attainment and how we're building great pathways to employment. And yeah, great shout out, Tara. D1 or D2 championship is this Saturday at the Ford Center. Everybody buy tickets. This is really competitive basketball. It's basketball season. So again, thanks everybody for hopping on. Have a great week and appreciate everyone being on today. Take care.